You got it. We're talking about harmony. Welcome back to Danny Robertson Music, where we try to help you become the best possible performer that you can be on whatever stage you choose. I'm Danny Robertson. Thanks for joining us again this week. If you haven't seen us before, do me that favor, hit the subscribe button, like or comment on one of the videos, and join my email list at DannyRobertsonMusic.com. So today we're talking about harmony. Specifically, we're talking about performing with harmony on stage. This involves singers a lot of the time. Sometimes it involves instrumentalists that are playing a solo together and they want to match their notes and match their tone. Today, let's talk about 5 things that can help you get better at creating harmony on stage. Okay, so first things first. When you're creating harmonies on stage, it's a lot like when you're just playing chords on your instrument. What you're doing is you're taking different singers or different instrumentalists and putting together individual notes that are different parts of a single chord. And then you move those around together in the way that it makes sense. So to best illustrate this, I want to show you an example of what is called a closed voicing chord. We're going to do it in the key of C, and it's just something called a major triad. It's a very pleasing sound that most of us have heard before. It sounds something like this. Okay? And basically what this is it's a triad because it's 3 notes. It's major because it's following the major scale of the key of C. So, right? If it were a minor triad, the difference would be the E right here would be an E flat, and it would sound like this. Okay? You can do this with your own singing. You can create chords based on 2 or 3 notes that are just being done by the vocals in your group. It might sound something like this. Danny Robertson Music, Danny Robertson Music, Danny Robertson Music, Danny Robertson Music. So the neat thing about structuring your chords within your singing is that you can actually spread things out. You can change where the notes are supposed to be. They call that inversions, and they call that open voicing. So what you just saw is what you'd call a closed voice, where all of those notes are very close together. But what you may also be able to do is move those notes to different places. Like, for example, the C doesn't have to be in the bottom. Just because it's the root note doesn't mean it needs to stay there. You could put the E at the bottom and do E, G, C, or G, C, E. And those are inversions of the exact same chord. Now, the great thing is you can also do this where you spread the notes out even more. So, for example, you may want to use this if you have a really, really high singing soprano singer, like a female that really has that high-pitched note, and you have somebody that can sing the really low bass notes. Well, you can essentially spread out the chord. So instead of it having it C, E, G right beside each other, you might keep the C and the G and put the E way up there. It creates the same chord, and it's actually a more pleasing sound too. And you can do that like this with your vocals. Danny Robertson Music. Another thing that you may want to think about if you have 3 or 4 singers is that you can add additional notes to your chord that give it a little bit more flavor, a little bit more color, and it creates a different feel for your singing voices. You can create things like major 7th chords or dominant 7th chords or minor 7th chords, or even more. There's augmented, there's diminished, there's a whole bunch of different options. But essentially what you need to remember is that when you count a scale, it's considered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But there's also 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And you'll hear a lot of chords that add 9s, 7s, sometimes 11s, and sometimes 13ths. And that can sound something like this. Things like that. And in vocals, it might sound like this.
Danny Robertson music. Danny Robertson music. Danny Robertson music. Danny Robertson music.
The next thing that's logical to think about when you're doing harmonies on stage with your vocals is that you want to be prepared to move the notes across different chords correctly. Now, what that's called is it's typically called voice leading. The best way I can explain it is you don't want the person singing the bottom note to always be singing the root note. You want the notes in each chord to move around simply and fluidly to make it sound best and natural while your singing is moving around. So let's take a look at the keyboard for this. What I mean is you don't necessarily want somebody going the root of G, for example, down to the root of D, down to the root of F, to the root of D. Okay, that doesn't sound bad, but you might want to think about how those notes actually move together better. So for example, the notes can follow a simpler path if you think it through a little bit. And that works well for whether you're playing an instrument or whether you're singing on stage and making harmonies. It might sound something like this. And here's another great example with a song that you may already know. The last thing I want to bring up when you sing harmonies on stage is that you want to make sure that your voices are blending together properly. Now, this is a popular term to say, but what does that actually mean? Well, it means a few things. One, you should be singing notes that match each other in the key that you're singing. Okay? Sometimes, if you're not paying attention, you're going to sing a note that doesn't actually fit within the chord that you're supposed to be doing. A good way around that is to remember that if you're singing a note, take your voice and sing just above it. Try to get just above where that note is, and you'll actually stay in tune that way a little bit better, okay? Pay attention to the other people that are around you. Make sure that your notes are matching each other. Number two, you want to think about how your voice's timbres are matching with each other. You may have one singer that sings with a very raspy voice and has a lot of air and good heartiness and feel to their voice. And then the singer that they're matching with sings more like an operatic singer. The voices don't sound like they belong together. When you're singing harmonies with others, you want to make sure that your voices are kind of in a way matching each other. You don't have to sound exactly the same, but you want to be similar in style in the way you're singing together, because that's how you sound like a single unit as opposed to a bunch of individual singers on stage. And thirdly, on that same note, another thing to pay attention to when you're singing harmonies with others, similar to matching your notes and matching your timbre, match how you're singing the words. If someone starts to sing a big ah note, you could have someone singing ah and somebody else singing ah. They don't blend together. They don't work well together because you're not singing the sound of that vowel the same way. It does not matter which way you choose. There's not a right answer to that. But you do want to make sure that if you're singing it one way, the others that are singing harmonies with you are singing the same way. It's easy to be a soloist on stage. It can be a lot harder to be a part of a team when you're trying to sing the same way. And when you don't have it right, it sounds like this. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this one. As a recap, if you're going to be singing harmonies on stage, and I encourage you to do so, by the way, because harmonies add a level of professionalism to a performance, okay? Good harmonies is all about making good, strong chords. You can do inversions of those chords and add color to give them a more creative flair. A good rule of thumb is to use good voice leading to try and lead those chords that you're singing and the harmonies that you're doing in a direction where they belong together and they're moving the right way together. And finally, make sure you're blending well by matching your notes well, making sure the timbres in your voices are on the same page, and you're singing your vowels and consonants in a similar way so that you sound like you're a cohesive unit. Okay? Thanks for joining me this week. I wish you the best of luck on your next great performance, where I hope you are adding in some harmonies. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you soon. Take care.